Hi, and thanks so much for joining me for today's video. Today I'm going to be showing you the books that I bought in March so far. It's a lot more books than I usually would buy, so I thought it'd be fun just to start with kind of showing you those books. The only other book that I have that's not in this haul is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne, and that's just because it hasn't been released yet. But I'll just kind of include that in like a wrap up instead of like its own little haul. Also, just for some context, I'm Canadian but I live in the UK, so we'll be mentioning some shops or stores, and that's kind of the location context. I have a lot of different genres in this haul, which is fun, but it'll be interesting. I tend to stick to like science fiction, fantasy, and then kind of dabble, but this one is quite heavy in just a few different genres, so I'm really excited to share them. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the first book that I'm gonna show you is The Rehearsal by Eleanor Catton. It's about a high school sex scandal that gets turned into a play. So it sounds pretty intense, but I really enjoyed Birnam Wood by this author, and it was also very intense, very twisty-turny, but it was still really a good ride, so I'm looking forward to reading it and just kind of, I'm just gonna put my trust in her and hope that it's good. I also got to meet her last year, I believe. She came to Birmingham for a promotional tour for Birnam Wood, and she was really friendly, really happy to answer the questions that I asked. She took a photo, which I will put up. And yeah, it was a really great time, so I'm really excited to read this book. And her other book, which won the Booker Prize, was The Luminaries, and that is massive, so I didn't really want to pick that up yet. Yeah, so this isn't too big, so it'll be fine. Okay, so the next book I picked up is The Woman by Kristin. So I know it's historical fiction, and I know it's kind of set during the Vietnam War, and it's about strong women and friendship. Sounds great. The reason I picked this one up is because my mom messaged me and she said that The Nightingale by Kristin was the best book she's ever read. So I went to Foyle's and just to see if they had a copy. They didn't, but they did have The Woman, and it was £5, so I think it would have been rude to not get this book. But yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I'm excited just to read it. I've never read anything kind of set in the Vietnam War. That's not really something that particularly interests me, but I'm curious now to see like the setting, to see if I like this book. And yeah, I know it's quite popular at the moment, so if you have read it, please let me know if I should get to this soon or if it's one that can just wait a bit. Thanks. Been interrupted a bit by my cat shouting. I'm gonna go grab him. Sick? Your part at least. This is Digger. Yeah, you okay? Oh, you done? Hi. Okay. I think he's had enough. Bye, Dick. Cool, so the next few books I'm gonna go over are actually books that I picked up at kind of a publisher's table. So it's a local publisher called Bruin Books, and they did an event where they had some tables set up in like a local mall. And it was really cool because we got to meet the authors. They had them kind of on like a schedule, like a rotating schedule, and yeah, I picked up some books from them. A lot of it's very kind of local to the West Midlands. So the first book I picked up is Vikrin Fire by Sam Hinton. I really like the cover. It's a very like cool cover. Anyway, not important. But yeah, so it's set in a kind of medieval-esque society. There's knights. It looks like there's gonna be a quest. I don't know much other than that, but it does sound pretty cool. I do like kind of medieval-esque stories. Usually I'm more into fantasy, as I said earlier, but I do like to dabble in historical fiction every once in a while. The only thing I'd say, I'm not sure if it picks it up, but the pages are very white, and I think that might give me a headache, but I am willing to try it. Yeah, so that's the first book. The second book is kind of more detective type of book. I'm just gonna read the first at the back. So it's called Spider by Sam Galliford. So after a bitter divorce, an ex-wife stabbed, and an ex-husband who was a primary suspect. It should be a straightforward case, except that Detective Sergeant Jack once shared a close friendship with both the victim and her ex-husband. So to me it sounds like you probably shouldn't be investigating that case, but I will suspend belief for the book. Yeah, so it does sound good. I'm probably gonna try to read it like kind of October time, because I'm not very into like horror, so I'm not reading horror books at that time, but kind of a detective-y novel as close as I can get. so yeah, so that will be probably for then. The author, so I did get to meet him and he was lovely. Sam Galliford is a pen name because he used to be a scientist, so I think he's currently retired now. But when he was a scientist, he published loads of like papers and stuff. And when he decided to kind of publish fiction, he didn't want people to get confused between like his kind of scientific papers in like journals and stuff with his fiction. So yeah, so that was a cool little story, and he was really nice as well, and it was a lot of fun. And then the next book I got from that stall, and also got to meet the author, and she was really nice as well, was To Beach or Not to Beach. Now this is a kind of travel book, so like non-fiction, and it's structured in a really cool way. I should also say it's by Mary E. Wheildon. And the structure is there's different topics, and then she discusses the topics in it. So for example, there's like music, and there's pictures, and markets, and kind of her descriptions and pictures as well. And I think this is a really cool way to kind of do it. So like whenever she goes traveling, she keeps a travel journal, and as part of the journal, like she takes pictures and everything, and then when she gets home, she can just write a book about it, which is a great idea. And the title, To Beach or Not to Beach, is like a play on Hamlet, which is cool. But then also it's because whenever she would tell her friends she's going on holiday, they'd be like, oh, are you going to like a beach, like an actual like relaxing holiday, or are you going exploring? And it's usually exploring, which is good for us because we get to read about her adventures. So I picked up a couple more non-fiction books, and they're fairly recently released. I'm actually filming this on the 17th, and one of the books doesn't come out until tomorrow, and it just showed up on Saturday, and I'm very excited. Yeah, but the first one is Looking at Women, Looking at War. So it's by Victoria Amelina, and Victoria was an author who pivoted to document war crimes when the war in Ukraine started, and unfortunately she passed away because from like a Russian missile. I think it'll be really interesting just to read about the stories of what people are kind of going through, how they've had to change, and I'm hoping there'll be some hope in this book. And there's also a foreword by Margaret Atwood, which is very exciting. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to reading it, although I think I'm gonna have to read it on sunny days. Okay, and then the last non-fiction I got is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. So I did get this a few days early. Yeah, super excited to read this one. It's about the history of tuberculosis and how it kind of impacts us today as well, and because it's still a disease that exists but can be treated. And yeah, so I'm really excited to read it. John Green, if you don't know already, is he's done a lot of young adult fiction, like Fault in Our Stars, Turtles All the Way Down, but over the last few years he's gone to writing non-fiction. So he did The Anthropocene Reviewed, which is a great book. It's kind of essays about the Anthropocene, so about like the current age we live in that's defined by humans, and like our impact on the world, and he rates it on a 5-star scale, which is hilarious. Yeah, so he has he had a podcast, The Anthropocene Reviewed, and that's amazing. So yeah, so book or podcast, can't go wrong. But he also is a YouTuber, and he has talked a lot about tuberculosis, about how like the more he learned, he would just talk about it, and it's scary. But yeah, but I think really interesting. I think it'll be a really good read. So yeah, excited to get into it. So the rest of the books that I'm going to be doing are fantasy, which I'm very excited about because that's kind of my comfort genre. So the first ones I'm going to talk about is the ACOTAR series. Here, I'm not going to go individually. I'll just kind of talk about the series. So if you don't know, this series, well, it starts with Feyre, who she's human and she's not having a very good time. Her and her family are quite impoverished, and she has to go hunting for them to survive, essentially. And she kills a wolf, but he's not a wolf, so then a fairy takes her over the wall, which is kind of a demarcation between the human lands and like the magical fairy lands that people don't really know much about. And then yeah, and she's just in his manor basically, and she has to try to figure out how to live in this world. And there's kind of more going on. There's like a overarching kind of danger that she has to kind of rally her strength for, to protect those that she loves and that she wants to protect. So yeah, so it's a really good series. I love it. I'm currently reading A Court of Silver Flames. I'm a little over halfway through. Very excited. So I do have these on Kindle. So I've read these ones. Well, I went to Tesco, and this series was £23, and I was so excited because usually the whole series is £50, so it was like more than half off. So I got them and I don't regret it. So yeah, so very excited about this. The last book I got is Blood Over Bright Haven by Emma Wang. So this book is fantasy, it's dark academia, it's there's magic. I'm very excited. I'm just gonna read the hook in the front cover because it sold me. So the first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever in the standalone dark fantasy from the author of The Sword of Kaigan. That sounds so good. It reminds me of Trudy Canavan's The Black Magician series, which is one of my favorite series. And that it's a standalone is also really exciting because like, I love a series. Sometimes you just want to read like one book, get the story in like a short burst, and then kind of move on to other books. So I think that's what this is going to be. I'm going to try to read it sooner rather than later, so in the next few months. And yeah, I'm really, really excited for this one. I think it's going to be a really good read. And yeah, I also want to read The Sword of Kaigan by the same author, because I've heard it's really good. I think that might be a series, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'll read this one, and then if I like it, then I'll kind of have a look into The Sword of Kaigan. Okay, so that's my haul. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you watching the video and still being with me at the end. Hauls aren't going to be a regular type of video because I don't tend to have enough books for like a haul video all by itself. I will put in, so I'm planning on doing like monthly reading wrap-ups, and if I pick up any books, I'll put a little section in there about any books that I've hauled that month. The only exception is if I do pick up a lot of books in a month, then I'll kind of do a little haul so that it doesn't take up too much of my monthly wrap-ups. I don't want it to be too chaotic. Yeah, so have you read any of the books that I mentioned? Are you planning on picking up any? Are there any that I should kind of get to as soon as possible? Please let me know, because I am very easily swayed, to be honest. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. If you like this video, please give it a like. Subscribe if you want to be notified of any upcoming videos that I do, including book hauls, writing videos, book reviews, all those fun things. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope you keep well, and I'll see you in the next one.